difference between fitness and life is we decide to put the stressors in fitness. The difference between building your mind and your mindset is you don't have the opportunity to choose when to add the stress. The universe will give it to you. God will give it to you. It's like, hey, you wanted to train this? Here you go.
Right, anything that pops up in your brain, write it down. But when you write it down, you're not going to write it and look at it and judge it. What that does is it allows you to create a little bit of space in between whatever you and that thought was. The second side to that is it allows you to embed some of the emotion into the page. Even though it's a really small page, sometimes after I do a thought download, I feel as though I need to nap. When you do a thought download, you become very aware of how mentally and emotionally heavy thoughts are.
I'm telling you, if you understand the power of your thoughts and you start to pragmatically train it by writing it down, by understanding the feeling, by understanding what those feelings create, you will get to a point where anything that comes up only makes you better. Why do you think so many people can't grasp this? They can't accept it, and they can't even think about it?
That's a great question. I think it's two-part. I think
the average human being has 60 to 70,000 thoughts, and 80% of those thoughts are negative, and the other 95% is the exact same thoughts. And why is this important, guys? If your thoughts shape your reality and you're having the same thoughts, you're going to have the same weight, you're going to have the same performance, you're definitely going to have the same life. However, if you learn how to train how to change your thoughts, you can change your weight, you can change the outcomes, and you can absolutely change your life. And today, I got one of my favorite human beings in the world here with me again. I got Nick Robbins, Nick Socrates, aka Nick Castillo. So welcome, man. Welcome back.
That's a good one. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
That
was good. I was like, dang, he had three of them right off the bat. That was good.
Oh, dude, actually, it wasn't Nick Socrates. It was Nick Aurelius.
Oh, I like that. That's fine. I like that too. Bro,
Yeah,
you put
Mark
me in the
Zeros.
stoic category.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. Whatever stoic you come up with, I'm cool.
Yeah. So guys, really quick, we are about to discuss something that's more meta. I don't think there's a lot of trainers that talk about the mind side, but over the course of 15 and 10 plus years of training, we've started to adopt more and more skills. First, we understood how to train our bodies. Then we learned how to eat. And then our mind exploded when we were like, holy crap, you can train your head. You can train your brain. And today we're going to have a masterclass, a 101 masterclass on what this thing is. And it's all about training your mind. So I want to start this off first by this concept seems so small and so simple. You change your thoughts, you change your life. Why do you think so many people can't grasp this? They can't accept it, and they can't even think about it.
That's a great question. I think it's two-part. I think people don't understand where their cup is, right? How full or how not full it is. Yeah. And then B, like you stated, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Majority of them are repeating thoughts and majority of them are negative. So if you don't have awareness around the thoughts that you're thinking and whether they're positive or negative, it's a very tough concept for people to grasp. Yeah.
It's very rhythmic. Another concept I think is the environment that you're surrounded in. If you're having the same thoughts and you're surrounding your 5 circles with the same thoughts all the time, you're going to have very similar outcomes. So I think it's so important to meet new people, to collaborate with strangers almost sometimes, to really just pivot that thought. I feel like some of my greatest growth a lot of times is when I completely leave Las Vegas and I take a vacation and I'm talking to a random person and then I'm like, oh my gosh, how come I never thought of that?
Because they're able to change your perspective. You're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I love that. And then another piece I think is just the things we consume, the things we
100%.
watch. Right. So if you watch, I mean, we're just so wired to see the negative. If 85% is wired that way, we watch the news. We're watching social media madness. But
trashy reality TV
with little mini drama.
100% listening. Yeah. It's what you're listening to too. Are you listening to stab and shoot and all this? Like it's you're a product of your environment, right?
100%. If you go to Netflix really quick, there's always those murder mysteries and dramas and like why you shouldn't be like this. And you're like, and then it's just formulating this repetitive pattern of thinking.
Have you ever talked to somebody who that's their, we'll say that's their niche, that's what they love to watch?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever noticed that they're highly anxious and highly stressed and always looking for the worst possible outcome to happen?
100%.
Because that's all they're consuming.
Yeah. And they do it right at night.
Right before they go to bed. So you're programming
Yeah.
your subconscious to look for all the negative. Isn't that crazy?
Exactly. So guys, if you don't already know, you're already training your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not training it the right way.
You're not consciously training
Yeah.
it. You are unconsciously training it. And that's the whole part of this, is become conscious of what you're unconscious about. So then that way you can pivot and you can change it.
Mm-hmm.
You're in control.
And guys, we're talking like we were experts at this, but we were consumed. And sometimes I'm still consumed by my thoughts. I want to first ask, like, prior to knowing this major epiphany that thoughts can really shape your reality and change the way your life looks, what did your life look like before understanding thoughts?
You ever seen one of those EKG monitors like this, right?
Yeah.
That you know you're alive, but lots of ups and downs, not really
Yeah.
going anywhere. Look kind of like that, very chaotic, and not understanding why it's chaotic, and very reactive, less responsive.
Yeah.
Post understanding about my thoughts and how to manage them and even how to change them, it feels as though my entire life I've been sitting in a storm, right? And been going with wherever the storm wants to push me, right, left, up, down, whatever.
Yeah.
And now it feels as though it's more of I'm sitting in the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
And I'm just observing. It's still chaotic. It's still life. I'm still not in control.
Yeah.
But when you sit and you find the stillness, you're able to observe and you're able to respond to what you observe as opposed to reacting.
Mm-hmm. I like how you said that, because I think prior to that, I was getting smashed by the waves of highs and lows. Like, they were both happening all the time, and you find yourself overreactive. You're overdoing things. I burn out. That was pre-thoughts. And then just like you, once I start to understand the thoughts, I was actually just able to sit and just watch the waves go by. And here's what's cool. When you guys start to understand that you can start to really manage your thoughts and understand your thoughts, you can choose to ride that wave if you want to. It's much more exciting riding the wave intentionally than getting pummeled by it. So when you really start to understand and really cultivate this awareness and this training around thoughts, your chaos is like, it's like a big 14-footer.
You almost,
right?
you welcome it now.
Yeah, you're like,
right?
Okay,
Like
oh,
when
look, there's a big wave coming.
Exactly. When you start surfing, you're like, oh, the big one's coming, crap. But when you understand how to surf, you're like, oh, the big one's coming. Okay, cool. I need to paddle into it. And then, okay, cool. Now I need to stand. Okay, cool. Now I'm on it. Same kind of a concept.
100%. And then when you surround yourself with people that understand that concept, they're like, oh, he's about to hit a wave. He's like, oh, dude, I can't wait to see you ride this wave. I think it's hilarious.
You're feeling anxious about it, and they're excited for you. And you're like, what? You're like, yeah, bro, you got this. Go ahead. Go shred the gnar.
Dude, it's so good. But yes, that's kind of what we were talking about. So I see that happen a lot of times with you guys now that I'm just more aware of what thoughts are and how you guys are training it. Anytime you guys are going through something pretty large and big, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a fun ride.
And that's kind of a tough pill for people to swallow. When they're coming to you with a tough time, and you'll sit there and you'll listen, you'll be empathetic, and you'll be in it with them. And at the end of it, you just look at them like, I'm so excited for you. They're like, what? Like, why are you excited? I just told you that A, B, and C happened. It sounds like my world's ending. It's like, yeah, but it's really just beginning. Because once you understand how to navigate this, the next time you get a pop quiz in life, it'll be easier to navigate. It'll be almost a little bit of fun.
I love that. It's at the very beginning. So just to sum up kind of what it's like before, when we had stresses, it would just pummel us. It would weaken us. It would destroy us. We would hide in a cave and be destroyed. Now the second phase to that is the stress is being neutral. We're just looking at it and we're like, do I even have to take that on? Now, when you really understand the power of this, you can take those stresses and make you stronger. And this is where it gets dangerous, right? So guys, if you want to become dangerous, that any circumstance and situation, good, bad, or indifferent, and it always strengthens you, keep on, because we're about to talk about how you can actually do this from a pragmatic view. So before we dive into how you can actually train this, let's talk about the model, because this was eye shifting. This is the red pill. If you guys don't want to take the red pill, just don't watch it.
Shut it off now.
Okay, shut it off now.
If you want to stay in the matrix, shut it off now.
100%. But if you do want to see what the world is like, and you want to be able to use the world in a way where it's literally your oasis, keep watching. So let's talk about the model, right? So the model, guys, if you want to write this down on your paper, the acronym is CTFAR. Nick, what does C stand for?
Circumstances. All circumstances in your life are neutral.
Okay.
All circumstances are neutral. We'll go there.
Yeah. So in your definition, what's the definition of a circumstance? So write down circumstance on that C letter, right?
It's factual.
It's factual.
It's like it's bright outside.
Right.
That's the fact.
Yeah.
The sun is up.
There's light out there.
It's bright.
It's 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, yeah, it's 11 p.m. We tie no emotional baggage into that. It's factual, whatever it is. And it's also typically, guys, it's neutral. It doesn't mean anything.
All circumstances in your life are neutral. You make it positive or negative based on 100%. Your perception of it.
Right.
I think that was one of the most pivotal pieces to the model, is really coming to the understanding that everything in life is neutral. Life is never working for you and never working against you. It just is. Yeah. You get to decide whether it's for you or whether it's against you.
Exactly. So in terms of fitness, because this is a fitness podcast, the scale is neutral. Like it's
the fact.
Yeah. You missing the weight at 225 for a back squat is neutral.
Yep. Or you being 300 pounds when you step on the scale. It's just a fact.
And here's where it's going to toss people around. Your knee blowing out is actually neutral.
It's just a fact. It's a byproduct.
They're like, what? How's that neutral? Right? So that is the circumstance line. Okay. The next one is the most powerful line. It's the thoughts.
The T line.
The T line. So what is the definition for, like, okay, this is a thought?
Your narrative about whatever the circumstance is.
Love it. So an example is you see the scale or you see the numbers on the scale, and then you say a sentence in your head. That's the thought.
So like the circumstance is 300s on the scale. When I see that on the scale, I think, oh man, I'm a fat piece of shit.
Yeah.
Right? So then there's your thought.
That's good. And then I could be like, let's go. Now I can tackle people easier.
Or I can stop people from tackling my quarterback easier. Right? Because I'm freaking wide.
Yeah. So that now you guys understand what thoughts are. The next one is feeling. How do we define feeling?
It is
F is feeling. Sorry, by the way, guys.
Yes, F. It is the emotion that you put behind whatever your thought was.
I love it.
So back to the thought of I'm a fat piece of shit. That doesn't feel positive.
Yeah.
Right? And feels negative. So I'm putting negative emotion and or feeling behind the thought of whatever I saw the circumstance to be. So whatever the thought was in relation to being 300 pounds on the scale.
I love it. I was calling it energy internally created, which is a byproduct of that thought.
100%.
Right? So that is going to be your feeling line. And a feeling can be, what are examples of feelings, Nick?
Happy, sad, angry, disgusted, joyful, prideful, boastful.
Dude, you started ripping them out. Anxious, depressed.
Yeah.
Right? All of those things are going to be those are emotions. Okay.
Daunting, overwhelmed, stressed.
I love it. Okay, so now we get into the feeling part. Now the A line is what we call the action line. How do you define the action line?
So action is what you did or did not do based upon the emotion that you put into, or the feeling that you put into the thought in regards to the circumstance.
So good.
So you can do something with it, or you can choose to not do something with it. Have you ever thought about something so long that it paralyzed you, right? Yeah. Analysis paralysis. You just
an action too, yeah.
Right? Thinking about it causes you to not do anything with it, right? That's a big one for me. I'm a thinker. I like to overanalyze.
I love it. Okay, so the feeling creates the action. And typically the way I define the action side is energy in motion. It's the action from the energy, whether it's an output or a no-put. Like nothing's happening, just like what you said, paralysis. Right? Every emotion creates a set of actions we can feel the same thing, but sometimes the actions are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
From a place of anxiety, I can be very, very productive. And for a person that's very anxious, it can be paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that your energy will create a set of actions. It might not be the same for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And let's go to the final line,
Which
the
is
R line.
R. Yep. Result.
Mhm.
So that is just an accumulation of everything. C is your circumstance. F is the feeling you're feeling. A is the action you're taking or not taking, and it's
Mhm.
getting you a result.
Mm.
And like you stated earlier, the result and the circumstance are always neutral.
I love it. Yeah.
They're always just a byproduct of what's going on in the middle.
Yeah. And someone's going to be like, what do you mean the result is not in my control?
Mm.
Can you explain like how that may not be true?
So in relation to the thought of, or the circumstance of, cool, there's 300 pounds on the scale, 300 lbs,
Mhm.
right? The thought of I'm a fat piece of shit
Yeah.
fills me with feelings or
Mhm.
emotions of negativity. I don't feel good about that.
Mhm.
In the beginning, took no action towards it
Yeah.
because it didn't feel good, right? You don't want to do anything when you don't feel good. So then the result was stayed 300 pounds.
Yeah. And you
Or-
feel the same way.
Or you stayed in that relationship that you shouldn't be in, whether
Mhm.
it's work or whether it's personal.
Mm-hmm. So one of the big things I want you guys to encapsulate is there's three things that is directly under your control. And that's going to be your thoughts,
Mhm.
your feelings, and your actions.
Mm-hmm.
The circumstance and the results, I call that God's line. Yeah,
Mm.
that's the universe's line. You can't control any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you do all of the things right, like you play golf a bunch,
Mhm.
you practiced, you slept right, you did your mobility, you practiced your strokes, Tiger Woods could still come in there and still blow you out by 14 strokes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Easy.
So you can influence the number in some way, but at the end of the day, the only thing that you can control is what you do, how you're feeling, and what you're thinking.
How well are you showing up?
When someone taught me this, it blew my mind. And I think it softens your like fixatedness. It's a word now.
It softens your perfectionism towards whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to be, to
Yeah.
some degree, high achieving in some aspect of their life.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the whole, I want to be perfect. And if I can't be perfect, then fuck it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole perfectionist mentality. And
Yeah.
that's what it softens. It helps you have a little bit of grace with yourself in relation to that mentality. So therefore you can be a little bit more malleable and a little less rigid.
Yeah. It weakened my outcomes.
Mm.
Like my fixation on the outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Or
And
how heavy
Yeah,
they
how
were.
heavy it was. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then it strengthened the other sides.
Mhm.
It strengthened the being in the moment, how to feel, how to
Mhm.
think, how to act. Right. So it's like once I understood this concept, it's pretty amazing what ends up happening.
If you let it, it'll change your life.
Are you looking to jumpstart your journey or just excited to take on a new challenge? Over the next 30 days, we are running our first ever cohort designed to get you easy wins in your fitness goals. Over the next 30 days, the team and I are going to be providing nutritional guidance, fitness support, and best of all, you're going to be surrounded with like-minded people that are looking to grow. If you've been looking to jumpstart your fitness, create new habits, start your weight loss goal, or maybe your workout's just been a little bit stale and you want to challenge yourself, this cohort is going to be for you. Now, if you're ready to take on this challenge, go to our show notes below, sign up to our free Move 30 challenge, and I'll see you guys there. Now, back to the show. Peace.
Bye.
Yeah, so let's run through that model so everyone understands again. What was the C? The C's,
Circumstance.
the T is,
Thoughts.
which is a narrative in your head.
Yep.
There is the
F. Feelings or emotions. The
Yes.
energy you're putting behind the narrative.
and then A.
Actions. Whether you're taking some or not taking some.
Make sure you're taking notes, guys. Okay, and then the last one's results.
The results.
Okay.
What all of it equals.
So, guys, it seems so simple, but I wanted to grasp that. We had to say it a couple of times because you need to write this down. I almost tatted it in my arm just for me to remember this. But this was such a pivotal component for us as trainers and teaching each other and learning about each other that I feel like we got closer because of it. Now we understood why your thoughts were like that and why my thoughts were like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very powerful. Learn this model it's like one of the very core fundamentals on how to actually train this. So
How would you learn the model? What's a step towards learning the model?
yeah, I want to go into kind of the practicing it. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because the framework that I like to use is very similar to how we train in the gym, right? So if someone wants a really, really good back squat, the first thing that I have them do is like, well, I need you to record it so I can at least see it. So that is the first step to this, is to build awareness by observing. And you had a very, very cool term for it. What do you call that term again?
Coined by Brooke Castillo, thought download, right?
Yeah.
And so essentially what that is you take a piece of paper and you just write. Like I have a journal, it's probably like 4x6, really small pages, but you just write anything that pops up in your brain, write it down. But when you write it down, you're not going to write it and look at it and judge it, right? You're just going to write it. Don't even read what you wrote, just keep writing. And what that does is it's twofold. First, it allows you to create a little bit of space in between whatever you and that thought was, right? Also, secondfold, the second side to that is it allows you to embed some of the emotion into the page. And as I was telling you earlier when we were talking before we started this, is even though it's a really small page, sometimes after I do a thought download, I feel as though I need to nap. Right. And that's one big part of what I really want to drive home for people today is when you do a thought download, you become very aware of how mentally and emotionally heavy thoughts are.
Yes.
We all think we can manage it up here. I'm fine. I don't need to build awareness around it. I don't need to have a practice. I don't need to have a meditation practice or a journaling practice. I can just manage it all up here. Best of luck.
Go for it.
Best of luck. Right? It's kind of like having too many browser windows open on your Internet Explorer. Right? If you have 87 windows open, how well does your computer function? It doesn't. It doesn't function real well. It's going to end up freezing. It crashes 100%. 100%, right?
Yeah.
But if you close 60, 70% of those windows, now your computer can be more optimized. Yeah. Same kind of a thought process. If you can close some of the open tabs in your brain and get it out on paper so that way you can see it and observe it, and also embed whatever emotion you have tacked onto those thoughts into the paper as well, man, your brain starts working way more optimally.
Yes.
You can stay on a thought for a lot longer, or you have higher quality thoughts.
Yes. So do this practice with me really quick, guys. We're going to do a practical here because this is something that we see in the weight loss community, in the fitness community. They hop onto the scale. It says, theoretically, 180 pounds. Let's run through some negative thoughts that people would probably say at that number. What are some of them?
Oh, man, I'm a fat lard.
I'm a fat lard. There's no hope, right? I'm wasting my time. This diet is not working. This fitness is not working. Royce is a bad coach. Nick is a bad coach.
It's all CrossFit's fault.
It's all CrossFit's fault. It's in my genetics. Guys,
I'm big boned.
I'm big boned. Like, this is not for me. I'm cursed. I'm saying all of this right now because we've seen this narratives for ourselves, but we see it all the time with our clientele. And it's really important to see that. And it's like Nick said, it's expensive. You're like, at first you're going to feel like a piece of crap. And that's really the intention. Like, it's when you guys are if you're like, Royce, I want to be able to back squat 315. In the process of being able to squat 315, there's going to be a lot of reps where it hurts. You're like, is this supposed to be like this? Yeah, it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to burn. The difference between when we're talking about physically and internally, it just weighs heavy. New emotions often emerge that when you start to see these things. And that's why you feel lethargic. Because if you squat light loads over time, you're going to get tired too. So it's important that you write it down and feel the tiredness.
And
right?
understand, feel it, but also understand it. Right? If you take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes and just write on a page, and if afterwards you're like, wow, I feel like I need a nap, cool. You just took a huge load off of yourself and you didn't even realize that you were carrying. You're over here trying to carry the world on your shoulders and you're not even realizing it.
Exactly. Okay, so that was the first concept. The second concept in training is to find a different perspective, right? Or what we can do is just ride the whole model down really, really quickly. But when you do this major thought download, it's important that you just put one thought.
Mm-hmm.
And you can stack the thoughts and it's going to create different emotions, but it's just important to write down one.
Mm-hmm.
So an example, we had that 180 person that hopped in and they were like, I'm a piece of beep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's that feeling come up? What feeling comes up for you when someone says that?
What feeling comes up for me when someone says it?
Or when you say that, like, I'm a
Like
piece
when
of,
I've said it to myself
yeah.
in the past, it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, you can call it angry, sadness,
Yeah.
whatever you really want to put there. It just doesn't feel good.
Yeah. For me, it's defeating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great word for it.
Depends
It's
on
very
the
defeating.
tonality. You're like,
Because you
Yeah.
can make the same statement, but you can also make it positive, depending
Right.
on how you're wired and where your cup's at.
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah.
different conversation.
So we feel defeated. You feel angry. In
Mm-hmm.
your case, let's just say you feel defeated.
Mm-hmm.
What are the outcomes? What do you typically do when you feel defeated?
More of the same, more of whatever. It's like a perpetuating cycle.
Yeah.
Right. If I feel defeated, then it's more than likely I'm not taking a bunch of action. Therefore, my
Yeah.
results not changing. Therefore, the circumstances the same. Therefore, the thoughts are the same. Therefore, the actions are the same. Therefore, the result is the same. And it's just a continuing, ongoing cycle.
Yeah.
Cyclical nature.
Yeah. When you look at it this way, guys, and you feel defeated, typically Nick is just not going to take any action at all.
Mm-mm.
Or maybe he's going to smack some licorice.
Yeah. Yo.
Or he's gonna,
How did you know that was my?
was in
That's
past
my guilty
episode.
pleasure, bro.
Right? So, and you amplify those actions over a set period of time. Typically, the result is not going to go in your favor.
And
Right?
you'll beat yourself up enough that your result will only get worse.
It'll only get worse. And here's what's fascinating about this concept. The problem wasn't the 180 pounds that you saw. The problem was the thought that you decided to wear in that particular scenario. Granted, if it was a different thought, you might have a different outcome.
The problem's never the problem. Your perspective on the problem is the problem.
Yes, because that problem created a thought. That thought created the feeling of defeat. Defeat created the set of actions of eating licorice, eating in and out,
Staying up
not
too
working out,
late.
staying up too late,
I'm monitoring my calories,
Right?
way too many
texting
carbs.
your trainer like, Royce, you suck.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
And then boom, you're not getting the results that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're just going to fast forward. This is like a before and after, but I'm telling you it doesn't happen this quickly. Okay? Let's go ahead and try on a different thought. We step on that scale again. I'm at 180 pounds. Let's try on a different thought, Nick. Something that's more powerful than what defeat feels like.
Can we make it more neutral?
Yeah, let's start with neutral.
So whenever I'm looking for a neutral, the thought is usually it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, because that's never negative and it's never positive.
Right. Okay.
It's factual.
And what does that make you feel? It is what it is.
Peace.
Peace. Okay.
Makes me feel peaceful.
And then out of that emotion, out of that state, what does Nick continue to do?
So then when I'm feeling peaceful, you kind of start to evaluate your actions.
Okay.
And see if they align with the result that you're getting.
You start being curious on your protocol. Like, do I need to change something?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, this is getting good. And then, guys, and what would happen if you amplified experimentation at this case, right? Because now you're just kind of curious. You're like, okay, yeah, maybe I need to do something with my nutrition. Maybe I need to start doing a different body part.
Einstein's definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah, and just if you start amplifying this version of Nick, how likelihood will the result change? That number starts to change.
It's very high.
A lot more.
If you can change the feeling in relation to whatever the circumstance is, this case 180 pounds.
Yeah.
If you can take it from a negative feeling and just get neutral with it. The toughest part is most people understand that they shouldn't be negative, and people understand that they should be positive. But the analogy I like to use is when you're driving down the freeway at 80 miles an hour, how easy is it to go in reverse?
It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Is it easy? You're going to blow out your
going from
engine.
forward, you mean?
You're going to blow out your engine. You're going to
yeah.
blow out your transmission,
Yeah.
trying to get your car driving forward at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah,
you're okay.
Yeah.
To throwing that in reverse and trying to go the opposite way. You
Yeah.
can't do it. Everything's going to break down, right? Same analogy in relation to a boat. If you're traveling 20 knots in one direction, how easy is it to pop that in reverse and go the opposite way?
It's not.
It's not.
Take a long
It's
time.
impossible.
Yeah.
Right? So when in relation to thoughts, it's always become aware of the negative side. Then find how to get neutral with it. Right? Good. So back in the boat analogy, if you're traveling 20 knots in one direction, you want to go the opposite direction. Let's say you have no steering wheel. I don't know what kind of boat you're in, but it works for the analogy. So what are you going to do? Well, you're not going to pop it into reverse because you're going to break everything, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to pop it in neutral. When you pop it in neutral, your negative thought starts to lose momentum. And only after you've lost so much momentum in the negative direction, therefore, can you turn it positive, right? So we have some sort of understanding that we're negative. We have some sort of understanding that we want to be positive, but nobody talks about how to get to a neutral feeling into relation to whatever your circumstance is. Neutral, that's the game changer. If you cannot be emotionally embedded in whatever your circumstance is,
that's the entrance, man.
That's where all the good stuff happens. Because you know how you're supposed to think or what the positive, the inverse of what you want is, right? But a lot of people, A, don't know how to get to neutral, and B, don't spend a lot of time there. The more time you spend in neutral, the more you get to be responsive to whatever the circumstances are in your life and not reactive.
Right. Guys, stop, rewind it. Rewind it, because no one talks about this. Everyone talks about positive thinking. I'm guilty of it because I'm highly positive majority of the time. It's very expensive to go from negative to positive. You need that neutral level, which is so big, and no one talks about this. But I'm glad that you brought that up. You see how I was like, let's go talk about positivity. I skipped it. It's as if like I'm not comfortable being in neutral, which I probably need to do a thought download in. Okay. So, but 100%, it's expensive to go from there to there.
And a lot of the times people don't have the energy.
Because positivity requires even more energy to get up there.
100%. So
I like that. So just getting to neutral is important. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Right? Like it is what it is. There's maybe more to this. You know, something that's not like super good news just yet. And it's going to create a set of outcomes, a set of emotions, and it's going to sprinkle in some cool things.
So in relation to your squat video analogy, right? Oh, I want to fix my squat. Cool. Send me a video. Cool. Right. Trash. Right?
Yeah.
Not good or bad. Just it is what it is. Your knees are collapsing. You have an anterior rotation of your pelvis. Your chest is collapsing because you have no dorsiflexion in your ankles. Right? Those are just the facts. As soon as we can get you to understand the facts of you have lack of dorsiflexion, your glutes aren't firing, that's why your knees are caving in. And if we fix your dorsiflexion, then your chest can be more upright. Yeah. It's just neutral. As soon as we get you there, it is what it is, right? You can feel some type of way about it, but it's not going to change the fact of the matter that you need more dorsiflexion, you need more glute engagement, so that way your chest can be up and you can drive your knees out, help your squat.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I like neutrality because it starts to spark questions.
It sparks a curiosity.
That's where the value of neutrality is. You don't quite know all of the answers, so you have to ask the right questions. Like, why do I have poor dorsiflexion on my right ankle and not on my left? How come my T-spine's never recovering? You know, it's like you start to ask these questions, and then it starts to pivot. You change the vehicle a little bit, and then now you can grow. Okay, can we get to positivity voice now?
Yes,
right?
Can, yes.
You see why me and Nick work really well because he's very neutral, and then I'm always on the other side. And we can just help bridge people along.
I love
right?
it.
So let's pick a more powerful thought. That's even. I mean,
in relation to the circumstance of 180.
Yeah, we just went negative. Now we're at neutral.
Yep.
Let's go into bam, something that's going to create a greater emotion than neutrality.
So the thought would be, man, I haven't seen this since junior high on the scale.
Wow. Now I even feel different because of it. So what emotion is created because of that?
I would say happiness, joy, a little bit of pride, but also curiosity.
Yeah. There's so much things happening from just that minimal quote you said. Man, I haven't seen this since junior high. And you just now have a cocktail of emotions, excitement, happiness, joy, under that spell. What is Nick doing because of that?
So based on the positive emotions that you're feeling, now you're taking action, right? Whatever your action may be, you're going to get either more of the same. Cool. I'm going to start to make sure my sleep is on point. I'm going to make sure my nutrition, my macros are on point. I'm going to make sure that my recovery is on point. So then that way I can get in the gym and push it, right? Prehab over rehab, those type of things.
I typically amplify the good and then reduce the poop stuff that I'm doing, especially when I'm in a space of excitement. I'm like, I'm going to double up on that then. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sacrifice that. I want to keep going. This is fun.
It's, we all love momentum. When you're in momentum, the trick to it is to keep it going.
Yes.
How do you keep it going? Well, you find the positive and you double down on whatever the positive things are that you're doing. Yeah. Right? Add a little bit more, subtract what's not working. Just make small pivots, small minor adjustments.
Guys, it's going to sound like we're schizo here because we had the same circumstance. We all looked at 180. We had sad Nick that was like, I'm a piece of shit. We had neutral Nick, which was
it is what it
is. It is what it is. And then you had super positive Nick that was like, I can't believe I'm seeing this in junior high. Again, the circumstance didn't change. The only thing that changed here, guys, is his thoughts. Do you see how impactful this thing is? And that particular thought created different sets of emotions. And every emotion that you have in your life will elicit particular actions. And if you can learn how to harness these thoughts on a regular basis and train it on a regular basis, and you amplify the actions over time, your life just looks different. And that's like, this is why it's so meta. And if you guys are like, write an emoji down that you just, I don't know if there's a red pill emoji or a mind explosion emoji. Put it on there if you're just having this emoji for the first time, because for Nick and I, we had to stop. We had to stop and we're like, this is life?
It turns into a playground. It really turns into a playground. Your day-to-day becomes way more fun when you understand how to fill your cup and how to manage your thoughts.
Yeah.
Because everything in life, whether you choose to believe it or not, is happening for you.
Yes.
It's either teaching you something or it's showing you something.
100%. So if you guys have Nick in your classes and you think he's psychotic every time you bring problems in front of him, it's because of this. He's trained his mind so well. We've done so many thought downloads. I just looked at your journal. It was just full of thoughts. I thought I was a crazy person. And then I show you mine and we're like, oh, we're both crazy. Right? You can actually train this. So just write those thoughts down. The next thing is just look at the feeling it creates, understand what that feeling does, and you rinse and repeat that over and over and over time, right? The next thing is, how do we train the thought? I know that's one way, is just building awareness. What are some ways we can start getting new thoughts?
Surround yourself with different perspectives, whether it be through a podcast, whether it be through a different circle of people, whether it be you talking to someone you haven't talked to in a real long time, family member or friend. It's all about perspective, right? We were kind of talking about it earlier. You can bring something that you think is a huge problem to someone who's not in your arena or your industry, and you just talk to them about it, and they look at you and go, well, XYZ. And you're like, son of XYZ? Why didn't I even think of that?
Right.
Because you're too close to it. Just get a different perspective. When you're too close to something, you can't. It's like if you're into guns, right? Let's say you're looking down a scope, right? If you're looking down a scope, you can only see a couple millimeters in all directions, right? That's why in the military or in the Marines they have a sniper, the one looking down the scope, and they have a spotter. Right. The spotter can see way more because he has 180-degree vision as opposed to the sniper who's looking down this scope. So perspective is talking to somebody or getting some sort of a perspective that just sees more than you do.
Right.
When we care about something, whether it be fitness, whether it be work, whether it be relationships, you're too close to it, unfortunately. And unfortunately.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So gain a different perspective.
Mhm.
And again, podcasts, people, it doesn't matter.
Books. Yeah.
Books, yeah.
Guys, if you're listening to this podcast right now, I guarantee you probably have a different life, right? Most people that have very similar lives are not listening to podcasts. And I love podcasts because it's like you're having conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you see yourself in them and then you're having
Mm-hmm.
conversations. So it's like you become the spotter now.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably talking to yourself as you're listening to this right now. And you probably wouldn't have talked to yourself if you weren't listening to anything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to train your thoughts, start listening to other people.
Mm-hmm. Get as many
Right? Get as
perspectives
many
as you
perspectives as you can, and then and your life changes. That's why we do this. That's why I love doing this, because there's a podcast that you've listened to that I've listened to that completely changed my life.
can.
And it wasn't an hour long. It was one sentence. It was one sentence, and it was worth that 1 hour for me to listen to because I got that one sentence that completely changed my life and continues to change my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like, guys, shoot, learn how to train this. This is we're teaching you now the pragmatic things. This is how you start lifting the barbell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to listen to podcasts, but also I think it's important to read too.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best thoughts that I get is from just reading.
Mm-hmm. Because you have your own inner dialogue inside of your head, and you get to bounce different ideas off of what you just consumed.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think a big part of this, and I just kind of want to bring a little bit more awareness to this because I've had so many conversations in relation to it in like the past 30, 60 days, is filling your cup.
Okay.
Throw a whatever a super link in there so that way they can go back and listen to the podcast where we talked about filling your cup. But this is one of those things, like talk therapy is absolutely wonderful. Okay. Therapists are absolutely wonderful. They're giving you tools, right? Whether the tool is a space to be able to have the conversation or whether it's a tool kind of like the thought model, right? They're giving you tools. But if you're 50% or below in relation to where your cup's at, you're not going to be likely to use the tool and or the tool is going to go way above your head because you're not ready for it, right? We had a conversation before we started the podcast of how we've quote unquote broke people because we've given them this tool and they weren't ready for it, right? But the reason they weren't ready for it is because their self-care was non-existent. So if you're not doing anything to fill your cup, things that you find enjoyment for that are just for you and not for anybody else, not for your spouse, not for your partner, not for your kids, not for your boss, just for you, then the likelihood that you'll be able to implement this and feel the benefits of the back half are slim to none.
Yeah.
And we've seen it. So I really do just want to take a moment for everybody who's listening to this to really consider what are things you're doing to fill your cup. What are 6 things you're doing? And again, Royce will put the link in there so you can listen to that podcast. But this filling your cup is the foundation to thought management and being able to take thoughts from negative to neutral and then from neutral to positive. Because we've already spoken to it takes a lot of energy to make something positive if you're not there all the time. It takes a lot of energy. But if your cup's not full, where's that energy coming from? Nowhere. So therefore it's not going to get done. Right? So again, just really want to drive home. Fill your cup.
Why didn't you include that at the very beginning? Because that is one of the major problems why people can't grasp this concept.
100%.
Is because they don't even have a vehicle strong enough to be able to understand this knowledge bomb. Yeah, right? So like there's a reason why we didn't shoot this on episode 1. We shot all of the basic episodes on how to eat really, really well, how to manage your fitness, how like what types of things to do, because we understood, because we broke people. Just like, let me teach you the model. It's just too much. If you're in fitness, the thought model is equivalent to like back squatting 405 or doing your first muscle up. So when someone comes up to me and says, hey, I want to do a muscle up, I want to do a back squat, I don't go right into technique. I used to, like really bad trainer Royce, right? Now it's like, let's do it. What's your nutrition look like? What are you doing for mobility? What's your sleep stress look like? Where's your squat now? How many dips can you do? How many pull-ups can you do? We don't go right into teaching the model because of that particular, that it's heavy. It's a heavy burden. And if you guys are listening to this, maybe save this one out first, especially if you're like always burnt out, you're always tired, you're not taking care of yourself. Some of the low hanging fruit that you can do is just to like do things that excite you, do things that's making your body alive. That can be in the form of a workout, meditation, journaling, spending quality time with people, right? That is what we're talking about when you're talking about like vibrating at the highest level and also like filling your cup.
It is the foundational piece. If you listen to this podcast and you're like, cool, I'm gonna run some thoughts through the model, and you don't feel any different afterwards, go back to the foundation of, cool, where's your cup at?
Yeah.
What does your cup look like?
And we'll put another link on there. We'll have 7 links and different timestamps now. They're like, there's another link. We really want you to watch it. Go watch it, guys. Okay.
It's just so pivotal. It's so pivotal because it is damn near impossible to be able to manage and or change any of your perspectives without having the energy to do so.
Yes. And if you master this cup energy side, you can start to lift a ton of thoughts. And you can not only lift your thoughts, here's what's crazy. You can start lifting other people's thoughts too. And then you can manage that. And it's not affecting you in any way, right? It starts out neutral first. You're just like, yeah. And then eventually it like empowers you to do something completely different, which I think is crazy. So one of the final stages, when this starts to happen, just like in fitness, we throw they master the basics. Now it gets fun. We just throw different types of stressors onto them. They're like, you can squat that. Let's throw a ball. See if you can catch it. They probably could. It just becomes fun. Now they're like multitasking with the level of mastery that they're doing. Or we could put more 5 pounds into it. Now let's turn it into a squat clean.
Now it's a stress test.
Right? Now let's just stress test. The same thing. The difference between fitness and life is we decide to put the stressors in fitness. The difference between building your mind and your mindset is you don't have the opportunity to choose when to add the stress. The universe will give it to you. God will give it to you. It's like, hey, you wanted to train this? Here you go.
Oh, you think you've been doing good at filling your cup? Cool. We're going to throw this. Yeah. We're going to throw a car problem in there. We're going to throw a spouse problem, a parent problem.
Yeah.
A health problem,
finance problem,
atmospheric problem. Now what you going to do?
Exactly.
Let's see you put your money where your mouth is then.
Right. And if that's happening to you, you are actually going the right path. Right?
Not why me, try me.
Yeah. This is training. Welcome to training. That's kind of one of my thoughts. Anytime I get into those situations where it kind of shakes you up, this is what I was training for. Neutral. Right? So it's like that. This is the final stages. But I'm telling you, if you understand the power of your thoughts and you start to pragmatically train it by writing it down, by understanding the feeling, by understanding what those feelings create, you will get to a point where anything that comes up only makes you better. And dude, like that's why we're so passionate about this. That's why we were like, I need to tell this to everybody. And we accidentally broke people because of that. This is not allowed. We talked about this. Like, is this allowed?
Yeah, for real. It's like, did we just stumble upon like a golden secret? Like, what's going on? Like, everybody doesn't know about this?
Yeah.
No. It's so far out of the general population's realm of awareness that it once you bring it into their awareness, if they're not ready for it, it'll break them. And it'll take a little bit of time for them to put themselves back together. But once they put themselves back together, they're much better for it.
I love it. So guys, if you want to hear more stuff like this is the stuff that we really are more fascinated about, which is the mind. We know how to get you fit. We know how to get you to do a muscle up, a back squat. But what fascinates Nick and I the most is the power of the mind, right? We're actually launching a course at one point. It's called Stress Less to Weigh Less. And it's not putting a barbell on your back and learning how to eat macros. It's learning how to manage your stress. And if you can master that, guys, everything is easy. And in fact, I wouldn't even say it's easy. It's like, it's just like, it's sustainable for the rest of your life. And it'll bleed not only in your weight loss goal, but for the rest, every aspect.
I think you hit on a beautiful part right there in relation to stress. Have an athlete. He's a father of like 3 or 4 kids. He's a business owner, has a wife, like absolutely phenomenal guy.
Mm-hmm.
Came to me a few weeks back and was just like, man, I can't seem to like lose weight. And he works out hard, right? He's like, I seem to just keep putting it on.
Right.
And I looked at him, I'm like, what are you doing to fill your cup? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh. And then I talked to him about stress, right? If you are stressed out all the time, if your body has too much cortisol in your system, if you are stuck in your sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight all the time, whatever you consume, your body is going to hold on to,
It's
right? Fat, 100%.
Yeah.
So when you quote unquote fill your cup, right? Get you out of your sympathetic nervous system, put you more into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, the weight ends up just melting off. Sometimes it's not about output. It's not about what are you doing in the gym. It's not X amount of sets. It's not what your nutrition looks like. You can be checking all those boxes and still not seeing any results. And the reason you're not seeing any results is because outside of what you're doing in the gym, how are you managing your own life? Are you a priority in your own life? If not a bad thing. Most people aren't priorities in their life, especially once they have kids and a spouse and a mortgage and a business, all those things. But if you really want to transition and you want to feel better in relation to the gym and you want to meet your goals and you want to see things change, it's a matter of understanding where your stress is at and how to lessen that stress. Because as soon as you lessen that stress, the weight falls off and your output gets much higher because you have less cortisol in your system.
Rewind that one too, guys. Only 2 rewinds today. Guys, this is what we want to talk about.
100%. And, this is huge.
Guys, if you're like, dude, I like what you guys are saying. I want to hear more of it. There's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about this particular concept. And I really think we should start a Training Your Mind series, which is going to be pivotal, especially if you're ready at that state. You're already making some progress. You're feeling good. Maybe you're at a neutral point because you're taking care of yourself again. This would be the next series for you to start to really dive into, because it will take you into an entirely separate level, for sure.
Completely different stratosphere.
All right, so let's just end with just a reminder. What are the action plans to train? What are the steps?
Mm-hmm. So step number 1.
Step 1.
Thought download.
Write down your thoughts.
Write down your thoughts, right? As many as you can fit in on a page,
Mm-hmm.
right? This does 2 things. A, it brings awareness to what your thoughts are. Majority of them are going to be negative. Mm-hmm. And B, it brings awareness to what your emotions are in relation to those thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. You can't know your thoughts are negative unless you see them, unless you're able to create a little bit of space around them, right? Beautiful. Action step number 2 is run one of those thoughts. You might have 50 to 100 thoughts on a piece of paper. Yeah. Run one of those thoughts through the model. Right? Understanding that first you're going to start in the negative category because majority of us are negative. Unfortunately, it happens. But understanding negative is what it is, right? It is just a perspective. Mm-hmm. Then you take it from negative and you move it to neutral. Once you've moved it to neutral, then you move it to positive. But you can't skip the neutral part because it's like trying to throw your car in reverse going 80 miles an hour down the freeway. It's not going to work. Stuff's going to fall apart, right? Then that was 3, right?
Yeah, 3. The 4 was... just let the universe train you.
Yeah, 100%. So step number 4 would be run it over and over and over and over and over and over again. It can be a thought that you run through the model.
That's like 5 years, guys, by the way. And it's still happening.
100%. It's a never-ending thing. You got to get 10,000 hours there. And even once you get 10,000 hours there, it still ain't going to be enough. Yeah. Right? Because in life, it'll be like, oh, okay, you think you hot stuff? Cool. Here's this pop quiz that you didn't see coming.
It's a lifestyle. Just like we train every single day. Guess what?
Yes.
I check my thoughts every single day.
Yes.
100%. It's never ending. I'm telling you, this will heal you. People will ask us, how we're able to do 75 hard, how are we able to do 2 a days, these crazy workouts. Guys, it's not like the workouts. What we're able to do physically in our body is this concept.
Mm-hmm. How well can you manage yourself? I think one of the thoughts you hit me with a while ago when we were still at Mountain's Edge is, what emotion did I have to release from a mental space to lose weight in a physical space?
I said that? Was that Royce Aurelius?
That was Royce Aurelius.
You might have said something like that.
And I've used that so many different times for people because people are unaware of the thought that is causing them to get into a chronic habit of sorts, whatever it may be, whether it's snacking, whether it's going to bed late, whether it's eating too much, whatever it is, right? What thought do you have to become aware of in your mental space, right? To be able to lose weight in a physical space, because your thought carries emotion.
What was that thought real quick? Just so, what was the thought or the emotion that you had to release?
The emotion, so not even necessarily release, just come to terms with, was boredom.
What was it? It was boredom.
Boredom. When this is why I don't go to bed this is why I go to bed at 10, because after 10, from 10 to 11 or 10 to 12, I get bored. So what do? You know, you do this. I walk to the fridge and I open up the door. Nothing changes in the fridge, but I keep walking to it like every 20 minutes, like, that doesn't look good. And walk back 20 minutes later, this still don't look good, right? Yeah. It's boredom. Had to come to the it is what it is phase, the acceptance of boredom is supposed to be there, right? I'm not trying to buffer boredom with food. I'm not trying to buffer boredom with video games. I'm not trying to buffer boredom with interactions with other people. You're supposed to be bored. Some of the best things in the world happen when you're bored, because then you can get creative around it, right? But that was the big one for me. That's what led me to being 300 pounds, is I was bored, right? What did I do? I'd become a snack monster, be eating just freaking everything. And none of that was filling me, because it wasn't a physical urge or a sensation that needed to be filled. Yet I needed to be mentally stimulated. I needed to understand where my boredom and why my boredom was there, and then what can I do to change it. I was bored because I wasn't doing anything for myself. Bored because I was doing everything for everybody else. Yeah. So boredom was that. Boredom was the emotion that I had to release from a mental space, so therefore the weight could come off and stay off in a physical space.
Guys, comment below if you want to learn how Nick overcame boredom, because this is a huge concept. Because this is a huge problem for me too, was boredom. I've come to acceptance with it. So guys, if you like that episode, make sure to share. Again, there's going to be 7,000 links on the cup filler. And hopefully you guys, your mind just exploded, and you have at least 10 brand new thoughts out of the 70,000 that you're about to have today. Because the idea of this whole podcast is to change your thoughts so you can have an entirely different type of life. And as always, guys, I'll see you guys later. Love y'all. Peace.